Even in a utopia, someone needs to clean up the mess. And that's where I come in.
You turn to me with a kiss in your eyes, and my heart feels a thrill beyond compare. Then your lips...
The girl promised me a way out, and I was desperate enough to believe her.
Well, you gotta name this?
Elizabeth. You can call me Elizabeth.
We were all buried at sea. We just didn't know it yet.
Okay, so if you haven't completed Bioshock Infinite, this trailer review is probably going to blow your mind, so I suggest completing the game before proceeding further. Now that the formalities are out of the way, let's talk about the trailer. Holy moly free-holies! We get to see Rapture alive and well. This is technically something we've never seen in a game, save for Bioshock 2's multiplayer intro, and frankly, who the hell would want to consider Bioshock 2's multiplayer to even be canon, let alone make sense in the storyline of Rapture? I mean, it kind of does if everybody's using Vita chambers and engaging in some kind of crazy undersea war between Atlas and Ryan, but honestly, you'd think by some point the whole city would end up getting destroyed and the Vita chambers shut down if they all keep, killing each other like it's a big old no-holds-barred Quake Arena 24/7. No. Here, we clearly see Rapture akin to how we first encountered Columbia, with the hustle and bustle of daily life in a utopia available for all to see, and that's awesome! Now, no longer are we going to be exposed to a dark, seedy, empty place. Is there someone new? And all that stuff. No. Now we will get to explore Rapture circa December 31st, 1958. One day before the New Year's celebration where the whole city just went to hell in a handbasket. We, of course, know that's the day everything went pear-shaped in Rapture because both the decorations you see around the town littered about and, of course, Ryan's intro in the Bioshock 2 multiplayer. Why do we keep going back to the multiplayer? It was so stupid. Oh my god. Anyway, I kind of wonder if we need to get to see some leftover Christmas decorations, but I'm going to guess that Christmas isn't really celebrated in an Ayn Randian society. Speaking of Ayn Rand, her idea that helping out your fellow man is a form of self-cannibalism is quite different in direction from what we would call the altruistic and highly religious society of Columbia. It'll be interesting to see if the psychology will be a major part of the story in a way kind of in contrast to how extreme on one end of the spectrum is not too far removed from the extremes we see on the other end of the spectrum. It's especially interesting since both these philosophies seem to differ strongly from current modern political philosophies. Using like American politics in comparison, we see that leftist American politics tend to be less about religion and more about altruism, i.e. government should do for the people what the people cannot do for themselves, and everyone is deserving a fair share, and man should not stand above his peers, no gods, no kings, but no thinking of needy people as parasites either. While American right-wing politics tend to be way more about religion and against altruism, i.e. in God we trust, one nation under God, putting the Ten Commandments back in the classroom, teaching that evolution is, quote, just a theory, end quote, while at the same time not ever actually lending a helping hand to the common man and ensuring that the natural selection of commerce weeds out the less fortunate as they die being unable to afford health care or food. Again, these are extremes. These are extremes we're going by here, just as how the politics in both Rapture and Columbia are extremes. So now let's take that comparison to Columbian and Rapturean philosophies and we see something that's quite stark. Rapture is a hardcore Ayn Randian society, so it's rightist philosophy, but, I just realized I put the right political alignment on the left side of this chart. Going back now. So yeah, it's a rightist philosophy, but it also is against religion because religion itself is often seen as an excuse for altruism, helping out your fellow man and so forth, something that Republicans are for. But in Rapture, you'd never see anything like Save a Child or missionaries. Now, those who are less fortunate are simply called parasites and swept under the rug. Columbia is very much about religion. It's a downright hyper-religious dystopia, which also uses those altruistic tendencies of religion to be all about the good of the people. White people, granted, I suppose maybe it should be more towards the center because they're altruistic but only towards whites, and it's perhaps perhaps this for the people quality that actually attracted the Lutesses, since they're not being religious or outwardly racist or even American for that matter. I think they're like British, at least not in any displayed way so far in game, gives them no good reason to want to hang out with Comstock, much less help the crazy guy build a floating city. And I'll leave the complex question of racism being the product of religion or economic classism to future generations of philosophers to decide upon. So, let's get off this political bandwagon and start talking about video games again. Here's what I want to know. Will this DLC end with Booker and Elizabeth at the Sea of Doors again? After all, she said that they walk on many different shores but always end up at the same place. This is something that seems inevitable, and since we know that Booker and Liz are meeting up again, it is inevitable that the events even leading up to Booker's drowning might play out exactly the same again, just a little differently. Like, maybe she opens a tear and, like, teleports him out into the sea, and she drowns him at the window, just like how Songbird died. Oh, jeez, it's too poetic. I apologize if I predicted the ending. It just sort of popped into my head just now. Anyway, next question. Will we run into Booker and Liz from the main storyline of the game, or variants of them? I honestly don't know, and I'm not sure if that would even be relevant, but it would be kind of cool if we could see this sort of intersection with the main storyline's reality in some way from the Colombian Liz and Booker. But then again, maybe that intersection would just be a similar series of events playing out. And my money's still on Booker being drowned at the end, by the way. I mean, come on! The name of the DLC is Burial at Sea! So it's clearly about drowning, or at least dying and ending up underwater. Another important question. Will the hard-boiled, rapture-based Booker DeWitt we play be more like Booker that we know, or will he be like having some of the underpinnings of possibly being like Comstock? We don't actually know what version of Booker we're playing as. Being an alternate reality variant, alive at a different time in a different place, his whole set of ideologies could be different. One thing is for sure, it's highly unlikely that he was in Wounded Knee. He could have been in World War II, however. And speaking of World War II, how is good old WW2 going to relate to Booker's backstory? Will he have committed some terrible war atrocity which he's ashamed of? Might he have been a Nazi concentration camp guard, kind of like how Tenenbaum was brought into Rapture? Or perhaps he was at Normandy. Getting to see some flashbacks of these things would be a really cool welcome change of pace and theme, kind of like getting to see the baptism scene at the end of Infinite. How will the baptism play out there as a theme? I don't know if we'll even get to see that. Will it be a theme? Perhaps some other water-related incident will be used as an excuse, like the sinking of the Lusitania, or a warship, or a U-boat sinking. Booker might even have been in the Pacific Theater. Think about that. It would be so cool to explore that as a concept. Instead of Wounded Knee, maybe he was killing Japanese soldiers, perhaps. We also know that in this chapter, you will be able to play as Elizabeth as well as Booker, and that raises a lot of questions for me. Specifically, how will that work? Will we get the ability to open our own tears within Rapture? Will we be able to swap between Booker and Elizabeth using some kind of plasmid, like the one that lets you control a little sister in Bioshock 2? Spoilers. Oh, and the other question I have, what plasmids will we actually be getting? I mean, we can clearly see that Incinerate is there, so that's cool. Or perhaps it's Devil's Kiss. Will it perform more like Devil's Kiss or more like Incinerate, though? I mean, we'll get to do a cool flamethrower thing, or will it be like a detonating mine? Will we get to shoot bees out of our hands again? Because I loved being able to shoot bees out of my hands. I mean, I know crows are awesome too, but don't get me wrong. I mean, it's like, it's frickin' bees! It's just fun to hear enemies screaming, bees! Ah! Bees! They're lies! Bees! Anyway, so that's basically all I can gather from this trailer so far. One thing is for sure. This is what DLC should be like. Compact, separate stories from the whole with brand new environments to explore, not just a rehashing of ideas and making them into a repeatable combat arenas. I mean, no offense to Mad Moxie, but, I mean, come on. $5 for Clash in the Clouds? And it's only 4 levels with no new bad guys? I mean, have you seen Tiny Tina's Assault on Dragon Keep? Because that was the shiz. Speaking of which, my next video series is going to be doing a Let's Play of that. Link below! Anyway, So it seems like Burial at Sea and Assault on Dragon Keep are going to have a lot in common, actually. You essentially play through a shortened reimagining of the main storyline of the game. And who doesn't like short stories? I sure love the hell out of them. I mean, I was listening to the audiobook for Asimov's Foundation trilogy while I was recovering from my wisdom teeth being pulled out this week, and you know what? That book lasted 7 freaking hours, and the story hardly went anywhere. I hate to say it, at least, I mean, I'm just comparing this to Asimov's other works. I mean, I got way more enjoyment out of the book that Asimov wrote before Foundation, which was simply titled The Last Question. And in audio form, that book comes to just under half an hour, but it somehow manages to pack several thousand years of more storyline into it. I mean, what is up with that? So anyway, here's the short stories, and let's hope that Ken Levine manages to deliver perhaps even more interesting Booker DeWitt and Elizabeth storylines and more environments, like perhaps the next one might even take place on a certain citadel? Yeah, hint, hint, nod, nod. Do it now, Ken Levine.